The house across from mine had blackout curtains in every window. Not blinds, not shades. Thick, stapled down black fabric that looked almost industrial, even during summer. I noticed it the first week I moved into Coldwater Ridge, a quiet neighborhood outside Spokane, where every lawn looked trimmed by the same person and nobody stayed outside after sunset longer than necessary. My house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac. Across from me was a narrow two-story home with faded blue siding and a detached garage that leaned slightly to one side, like it was tired. The man who lived there never waved, never had visitors, never put trash on the curb. His name was Ellery Voss. I only learned that because the mailman accidentally shoved one of his letters into my box. The envelope smelled strange, like mildew and bleach. I walked it across the street that evening. The porch light was already on, even though the sun hadn't set yet. Yellow moths bounced against the bulb in frantic little circles. I knocked once, no answer, twice, still nothing. Then I heard something inside. Not footsteps, metal scraping concrete, slow, heavy. I remember gripping the envelope tighter. "Hello?" I called. The scraping stopped instantly. A full 10 seconds passed before the locks clicked open. 3 different locks. Ellery stood behind the door, wearing gray work gloves and a dark thermal shirt, despite the heat outside. Mid-50s maybe, thin face, watery eyes, skin so pale it almost reflected the porch light. But what I noticed most was the smell behind him. Wet dirt, like fresh soil after rain. He looked at the envelope in my hand before looking at me. "You opened my mailbox?" His voice sounded calm, but too calm, like someone trying not to sound angry. "No." It got mixed with mine. I handed it over. He didn't take it immediately. Instead, he looked past me toward my house, studying it, memorizing it. Then he finally took the letter. "You live alone?" The question hit me wrong. I laughed awkwardly. "Yeah, just moved in." His eyes lingered another second too long. Then he quietly said, "You should keep your basement door locked at night," and shut the door in my face. I stood there listening to the deadbolt slide back into place. Then another lock, then another. Behind the door, I heard the scraping start again, lower this time, farther beneath the house. For the next 2 weeks, I barely saw Ellery, but every night around 1:13 a.m., I heard something underground. At first, I thought it was plumbing, maybe old pipes beneath the neighborhood. Then one night, I muted my TV and realized the sound moved, not through the walls, through the street, a dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled below the asphalt. I stepped onto my porch barefoot, the wood cold under my feet. The neighborhood was silent. No cars, no dogs barking, no wind. But underneath everything, that sound. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. It traveled from Ellery's side of the street toward the storm drain, near my mailbox. Then stopped, completely. The silence afterward felt wrong, like the entire neighborhood was holding its breath. That's when I noticed Ellery standing in his yard, perfectly still, watching the storm drain. He wasn't wearing shoes, just standing in dead grass under the porch light with dirt smeared up both arms. Then his head slowly turned toward me. I immediately stepped back inside and locked the door. I told myself I was being paranoid. Neighborhoods always feel strange when you first move somewhere new. People are awkward, old houses make noise. That explanation worked, until my dog started reacting to the basement. Barrow was a 90-pound shepherd mix I'd adopted 2 years earlier. Fearless dog. He once bit a coyote that wandered into my campsite, but suddenly he wouldn't go near my basement door. At first, he just growled at it occasionally. Then one night around midnight, I found him standing rigid in the hallway, staring directly at the basement entrance. The door was closed, but Barrow's ears were pinned back, low growl vibrating in his chest. I crouched beside him. "What's your problem, buddy?" Then I heard it. A soft thump beneath the floorboards. Not inside my basement, under it. Another thump. Barrow backed away, whining. Then came something worse. A faint, metallic clang, like pipes knocking together underground. Except there were no pipes beneath my basement. The inspection report confirmed that before I bought the house. I grabbed a flashlight and opened the basement door. The stairs descended into darkness. Concrete walls, water heater, storage shelves, nothing unusual. But Barrow refused to follow me. He stayed at the top, whining softly, while I walked down. Halfway down the stairs, I smelled it. Wet dirt, the same smell from Ellery's house. My flashlight drifted across the concrete floor and stopped. Fresh mud footprints, bare human footprints, leading toward the far wall. I froze. I lived alone. The prints ended at the concrete wall itself. No doorway, no opening, just a blank foundation wall. I stared at it for nearly a minute before convincing myself there had to be a leak somewhere. Maybe old construction. Maybe I tracked mud in somehow. But deep down, I already knew that wasn't true, because one of the footprints was facing backward. 3 days later, a girl disappeared 2 blocks over. Her name was Morel Kay, 16 years old. Last seen walking home from her shift at a grocery store. The neighborhood changed overnight after that. Parents stopped letting kids outside. Porch lights stayed on until morning. People whispered in little circles at the ends of driveways. Police cars crawled through the streets every evening. And through all of it, Ellery Voss acted exactly the same. That's what bothered me most. No curiosity, no concern, nothing. Just those dead, pale eyes. And that same scraping noise every night under the street. Then I noticed something else. Every morning around dawn, Ellery wheeled a rusted utility cart from his garage into the backyard. The cart was always covered with a tarp, and every morning, the tarp looked wet. One morning, I watched from my kitchen window while drinking coffee. Ellery stopped suddenly, turned directly toward my house. Even from across the street, I could see the irritation in his face. He knew I'd been watching him. Slowly, he lifted one corner of the tarp, just enough for me to see underneath. There was dirt, a massive pile of dark, wet dirt, and tangled inside it was a pink strip of fabric. I recognized it immediately. The missing girl's work apron had been pink. Ellery lowered the tarp again and smiled. Not a friendly smile, a warning. Then he wheeled the cart behind the house. I should have called the police right then. Instead, I waited, and that decision still ruins my sleep. The rain started around midnight, hard enough that it blurred the streetlights outside my windows. I couldn't sleep. Barrow paced non-stop between the front door and basement hallway, whining under his breath. Then the power flickered, once, twice, out. The whole neighborhood vanished into darkness. A few seconds later, lightning flashed across the street and illuminated Ellery's garage door, wide open. I don't know why I went outside. Curiosity maybe, or that horrible human instinct to confirm your own fears. Rain soaked through my hoodie instantly as I crossed the street. The garage smelled like rust and gasoline. Tools hung neatly along the walls, too neatly, like a display. Then, another lightning flash lit up the floor. There were scrape marks, deep grooves in the concrete leading toward a metal shelving unit at the back wall. I stepped closer. The shelving unit wasn't bolted down. It sat on hidden caster wheels. My pulse started hammering. I pushed it slowly aside. Behind it was a steel door built into the floor, heavy industrial hinges. Padlock removed, slightly open, and from below, I heard breathing. Not loud, weak, human. I should have run. Instead, I opened the door. Cold air rolled upward, carrying the stench of mold, bleach, and wet earth. Narrow concrete steps descended into darkness, and somewhere deep below, someone whispered, "Help me." The basement wasn't really a basement. It was deeper than that, far deeper. The stairs kept descending long after they should have ended. Concrete walls dripped moisture. Old electrical wires ran along the ceiling. Some of them looked decades old. Others looked brand new. At the bottom, the hallway split in 2 directions. That's when I realized something horrifying. This space extended beneath multiple houses, not just Ellery's. The air vibrated with distant mechanical humming, and underneath it, very faint crying. I followed the sound to a room lined with shelves. Jars covered every wall. Hundreds of them. Inside each jar floated clumps of hair. Different colors, different lengths. Each jar had a date written on masking tape. Some dated back over 20 years. My stomach folded in on itself. Then I heard movement behind me. I spun around. A girl sat curled in the corner behind a water heater. Thin, shaking. Morel. Her wrists were zip-tied. Mascara streaked down her face. The second she saw me, she started sobbing. "Oh my God, please, please get me out." I rushed toward her and froze. Footsteps above us, heavy, slow. Ellery was home. The lights went out instantly. Total darkness swallowed the room. Morel started hyperventilating. "Quiet," I whispered desperately. Above us, a metal door slammed. Then came the scraping sound again. Except now I understood what it was. Something massive being dragged through the tunnels. Closer, closer. Ellery's voice echoed somewhere in the dark. "I told you to lock your basement." Barrow suddenly exploded into barking somewhere above, then snarling, violent crashing. I pulled Morel's zip ties against a rusted pipe until they snapped. "Can you run?" She nodded weakly. We stumbled through the darkness using my phone flashlight. The tunnels twisted beneath the neighborhood like veins. Old support beams, rotting insulation, dirt walls breaking through concrete. Then my light landed on something that made Morel scream. A child's shoe, still attached to a foot, half buried in the dirt wall. I nearly dropped the phone. The tunnel around it was filled with bones, not arranged, mixed into the earth itself, like the walls had been feeding on bodies for years. Then the dragging sound stopped directly behind us. Silence. I slowly turned my flashlight. Ellery stood at the far end of the tunnel, holding a shovel. His face looked different underground. Not nervous anymore. Comfortable. Like this place belonged to him. "You shouldn't have come down here," he said softly. Then he smiled. And behind him, something moved in the dark. Not Ellery. Something taller. At first, I thought it was another person. Then it crawled forward into the flashlight beam. Its skin looked pale gray and stretched too tightly over its body. Its arms were impossibly long, and its eyes, God, its eyes looked human. Not animal, human. Its mouth opened sideways. Rows of broken teeth twitching inside folds of wet flesh. Morel started screaming uncontrollably. Ellery didn't react. He simply whispered, "Easy now." The thing crawled around him like a starving dog, circling its owner. Then I understood. Ellery hadn't built the tunnels. He'd been feeding something living underneath the neighborhood. For years, maybe decades, the creature lunged suddenly. I grabbed Morel and ran. Behind us, screaming, erupted through the tunnels. Not Morel, Ellery. Wet tearing sounds echoed off the concrete walls. Then silence. Pure silence. The creature had stopped chasing us. That somehow felt worse. We sprinted blindly through branching tunnels until we found a ladder leading upward. I shoved against the hatch above us. It burst open. Fresh air hit my face. We crawled out into my basement. The mud footprints, the sounds, the smell. The tunnels connected directly beneath my house the entire time. Barrow stood at the top of the stairs, covered in blood that wasn't his, growling into the darkness below. Then, from deep under the basement floor, I heard movement again, slow, deliberate, coming toward us. Police arrived within minutes after I called. They searched everything. Ellery's house, the garage, the tunnels, but they never found the creature. Only evidence. Bones, clothing, missing persons dating back decades. The tunnel stretched nearly half a mile beneath the neighborhood before collapsing into unstable earth. Officials sealed every entrance with concrete within 48 hours. The story hit local news for a week before disappearing. Most people blamed Ellery alone, a serial killer with underground tunnels. Case closed. Simple. Clean. Except for one thing. They never found Ellery's body either. Morell moved away immediately. I stayed only long enough to sell my house. But before I left, I went into the basement one final time. The new concrete seal covered the broken tunnel entrance completely. Smooth, solid, permanent. I stood there staring at it while Barrow whimpered behind me. Then I noticed something near the floor, a small crack, barely visible, and from inside it, a single human eye blinked. I ran so fast, I left the basement light on. The next morning, the crack was gone. Smooth concrete. No opening, no eye, nothing. But sometimes, late at night, I still wake up hearing that scraping sound beneath the floorboards, moving slowly under whatever neighborhood I'm in now, searching. If this story made your basement suddenly feel a little colder, imagine hearing something move beneath it tonight. Comment what you think was really living under those houses. And if you've ever had a neighbor that felt deeply wrong, share your story before the lights go out again.